So, warm hello to everyone and welcome. And one of the simplest ways of talking about the path of Buddhism, Buddhist practice, meditation, Buddhist meditation, the direction that Buddhism is going, is to avoid causing harm. Everything about Buddhism is somehow encapsulated in this intention. And it's a little bit unsatisfying, and that would be nice to have some grand positive statement. But it's phenomenal to live a life that doesn't cause harm. And in meditation, that is not means primarily or either not causing harm to oneself or not having any thoughts that could be considered harmful for others. If they knew what you were thinking, they would feel hurt. And then in meditation, part of the advantage of it allows us to see is that when we have thoughts that are hurtful, harmful for others, if they knew what we were thinking, or if we enacted them, the very having those thoughts, chances are that they're also harming ourselves. And when we harm ourselves, we set up the conditions, the stresses, the tensions within us, where it's easier then to harm others. So it's quite a profound thing. It's kind of like and if you don't think it's enough for you, then think of it as the entry door to what is greater or more profound. It's the foundation, not causing harm. So here we are, and maybe this can be in the back of your mind, the front of your mind, this beautiful thing, the wonderful, marvelous thing, that maybe to sit here and be attentive enough to track your thoughts, track what you're doing, to see if you can meditate for these minutes, putting aside letting go of any ways in which you are causing harm, even the subtlest kind of harm with thoughts. As you meditate, there could be subtle aversion towards hostility towards your thoughts or your feelings, or even a kind of certain kinds of impatience, certain kind of tensing up around something, certain kind of tensing up around thoughts even, or a compulsion or pressure to think. There's a kind of subtle kind of harming going on in attachment to what we're thinking about. So you don't have to be ahead of yourself, but as you become sensitive to ways in which you're adding stress, suffering, pain, harm to yourself in meditation, see if you can let go of it. Stop doing that. And if you can't do that, which sometimes is difficult to let go of it, can you then hold that and hold yourself in compassion? Hold it with care and kindness, with a deep appreciation of how difficult it is to human life, and in that sense of appreciation of the difficulty, that to hold yourself kindly, breathe with it. So, to take a comfortable meditation posture, and in your comfortable posture, to adjust yourself so that your body can feel a little bit more alert. Maybe a little lengthening of the spine. Maybe as there's a way of opening the chest a bit. Maybe your hands can be in a position that supports confidence, being present here confidently. Gently closing your eyes. And then taking a few gentle but deeper breaths, 3/4 full. And as you exhale, release tensions and holdings, tightening in your body that might be easy to relax. And then letting your breathing return to normal. Part of the value of relaxing the muscles, the body as you begin meditating, is to support a condition where you're sensitive to the subtle ways in which we think and feel and want, which cause subtle harm to ourselves, even subtle stress while we meditate. And as you exhale, perhaps relaxing the muscles of the face. Muscles that maybe get overused in the course of everyday life. They have a chance to soften and relax. No need to try so much. Softening, relaxing the shoulders. And maybe even the area of your shoulder blades can soften a bit. And relaxing, softening in the chest. And softening in the belly. And then to awaken the awareness of breathing. As if you can awaken within the body, within your breathing. Without force, without expectation that leads to disappointment, without even the need to succeed, which can also lead to disappointment. But rather than a need to succeed, perhaps a dedication to engage, to be present to the best that you can, whatever that might be. So you're generous to yourself and your capacity to be present. When the mind wanders off, not to do the subtlest harm to oneself towards being discouraged or upset or disappointed or critical. Instead of any of those things, just begin again. Simple, open, relaxed. Begin again and again and again. Perhaps even enjoying or loving the exploration of what it means, what it is like to be aware of breathing. Entering into the world of the body, breathing. The sensations in the nose or in the chest or in the belly as you breathe. Letting that be the center of your universe. Just here with breathing. being sensitive to the slightest ways in which there is harm being made or stress being added, tension being created. And even the most subtle and slightest you might feel, see if you can let go of it, to relax it. See if you can trust that way of being that needs no stress. just imagine what your inner landscape would be like if there was no harm ever coming out of it. No tendency, no movement of harm, of stress, criticalness. No unwholesome, harmful thoughts about others. Imagine what it would be like in your own mind and heart. Imagine perhaps the simplicity or the clarity, the peacefulness. If we can rest in a place within that doesn't cause harm, resting confidently that this is a good place. And then coming to the end of this sitting, turning your attention out into the world. And may each of us offer non-harming to the world around us. Whatever ways in which this meditation has supported us to not get pulled into tendencies of harm-making, may that be expressed in a wish. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. And may how we live our lives contribute to that possibility for others. May we live for the welfare and happiness of this world. So, this is the third talk now on living a Dharmic life. So if you want to receive some of the benefits that could come from becoming a monastic, living at a retreat center, being on retreat a lot, where the whole life is kind of dedicated to the Dharma, to practicing. If you want those benefits without doing those things, just to continue with your ordinary everyday life. So I'm offering different ways that you can maybe get quite a bit of this benefit. And a lot of it depends on how much you dedicate yourself to these simple practices I'm teaching. But simple doesn't mean they're not profound or phenomenally impactful. So for this one, for today, I'd like to offer something that maybe is the only thing you really have to know about Buddhism. If you really live this idea, live this practice, live in this approach to life, if you do it well and thoroughly, that all of Buddhism kind of comes along and follows all the insights, all the ways of growing spiritually and personally follow. And that is to be dedicated to causing no harm. That's it. If you just keep that with you, if you had a ring made that was engraved, and no harm, so you remember it all the time. That this is really the heart of it, the center of it, and and that's all you did was to live by that, and become more and more refined in how you live that life, more and more subtle, and no harm in any direction towards oneself, to other people, to the planet, to the environment, to not cause any harm. And if it seems like too high a challenge, maybe impossible, then not causing any intentional harm, willful harm, and at least start there. I'm just not making this up for myself. There's an ancient teaching that the primary characteristic of the Dharma is, in fact, non-harming. And it's such a strong association with the Dharma, this idea of not causing harm. And the teachings I gave in the last few weeks on wholesomeness and unwholesomeness could be understood as non-harming and harm. That what's unwholesome is in some way or other defined by what causes vexation, suffering, stress on our system and onto the world. And what is wholesome is that which does the opposite, doesn't cause harm, doesn't cause vexation and distress and stress. And the advantage of this one simple little thing, causing no harm, to use that as even if you can't live up to it completely, to use that as a reference point, as a gauge, to really see much more clearly than ever before, perhaps, that all the ways that you do cause harm. Now, not to harm yourself even more. The way we live and dedicate ourselves to non-harming, we do it in a way that's non-harming. It doesn't work to dedicate oneself to non-harming and do it in a way that's, we set up to harm ourselves even more. But to use this gauge, this reference point of non-harming, so we can see much more clearly, where we're going off and going wrong. I suspect because on freeways, they have all these lines for the lanes on the freeway, that those lines help us navigate and keep straight on the freeway. And but if there were no lines, I think we'd be, swerving a little bit more, moving back and forth further than we do. And so the same way, this principle of non-harming is kind of like the lines that for our life, so in our lane. And we notice much more carefully then when we're liable to kind of swerve too far in the direction of harming. And I want to underscore again, both to ourselves and to others. And so part of the function of this principle of non-harming is becomes a mirror so we see ourselves better. And then if we see ourselves really honestly, to have this self-honesty and see ourselves what that we're causing harm, then? What do we do then? And I suspect that seeing this clearly will naturally change what you'll want to do, how you want to live your life, how you want to talk or do what you want to do. It's when we don't see it so clearly that we tend to go ahead and cause harm. So, for example, with speech which is mean, speech which is maybe spiteful or critical of someone, angry at someone, we might even know that we're doing it, but we might justify it. They deserve it, or this is the way I'm trying to get my way, or something. But if we remember that the principle is non-harming, and then, then we can explore this. What way is my statement, what I'm going to make to my friend, where's the harm here? What kind of harm am I causing? Am I harming myself? Am I harming our friendship, my friend? Is this something that I've been doing regularly, and what's the impact of it? And maybe is there another alternative to take care of myself? I think that's what I'm doing. Can I figure out some way to take care of myself without saying this harmful thing, this spiteful thing or something? And so that kind of reflection, a reflective life, is part of a Dharmic life. It's not only about just showing up and being mindful in all situations. It's also being reflective and contemplating, considering. And some of those considerations sometimes are debates within ourselves and going back and forth. But if you have the referee, or the principle of non-harming as a reference point for those conversations in yourself and the questioning and wondering, then maybe also you'll come up with a question, what's the alternative to doing something harmful? Is there some way that I benefit more, some way that others benefit more, if I say this in a different way? And what does it take to say it differently? Maybe I need to learn new skills. Skills in, a simple thing to point to these days is, for some people, is nonviolent communication techniques. But there's a whole slew of ways of speaking that are not making statements about other people. So, for example, that simple principle of making I statements rather than you statements. Talking about what we're feeling, which doesn't mean saying, I feel that you're wrong. It means, when you say X, I feel hurt or feel afraid. And so to find new ways of being in the world that are maybe more intelligent, more creative, more innovative than the ancient, primitive, simplistic way, reptilian way maybe, of being aggressive or causing harm towards oneself and others. And then as we live by this one simple principle, not causing harm, to begin to appreciate what begins to bubble up into surface, to appreciate the peace that comes, the ease that comes, the calm that comes, the confidence that comes with not causing harm, the way we start feeling better for ourselves, and start appreciating that there is this, I would think that in most people, there is a strong instinct to not cause harm. That's almost an instinct, like, pulling the hand off the hot stove. If we're quiet, mindful enough to really be sensitive to where that instinct lives in us. And we're not so sensitive when the unwholesome mind that's spinning and angry and afraid and desirous, greedy, if that gets the upper hand and we're claustrophobic with these thoughts and ideas and preoccupations, that then there's no space to feel this wonderful place that's, I think, in most people, this wonderful place that really doesn't want to cause harm. And one of the reference points for this idea also is the idea that if you have, for many of us, if you have a young child or grandchild or niece or nephew or neighbor or something who's quite young, maybe still a baby, how much we don't want to cause harm, how much care we would do and to not cause any harm there, and to people we love. And if we have it there, the idea in Buddhist practice is to begin universalizing it, is to spread it out to all beings that we see, that not exactly that they're family, but as if they're family, we don't want to cause harm for them. And one of the important family members for this whole enterprise is yourself. And I can't underscore how important it is not to cause harm to oneself. And so if someone comes and criticizes you for anything at all, watch yourself carefully there. See what your inner response is. And see if there's some way in which you respond that you're actually causing self-harm to yourself. If you're too quick to apologize, if you're too quick to be critical of yourself and to diminish yourself and kind of confess, like, oh, what a terrible person I am. If that's not done wisely and carefully, we end up hurting ourselves. And sometimes we do it intentionally because if we show other people that we're hurting ourselves and feeling really bad, then we more likely think that they believe us, or that they see that they're having an impact that they want to have on us, which is actually to make sure that to put us in our place. But what exactly does it mean to cause harm to oneself, and is it necessary? Can there be a confession of fault? Can there be admission of, yes, I did something wrong, where we don't diminish ourselves, we don't belittle ourselves, we don't harm ourselves, and in fact maybe we can learn how to confidently say, yes, I apologize when necessary, fully and clearly with a certain kind of strength, say, I made a mistake, and I'm going to try my best not to do that again. I'm so sorry. How can I make amends? What can I do for you? Or, but do it from a place where we're not diminished or harming ourselves. So in all directions, non-harm. And I'll repeat what I said at the beginning because I feel it's such an important point, that I believe that if you hold on to this one principle, this idea, you really don't have to believe anything else that Buddhism teaches. You don't have to hold on to anything. You don't have to learn all kinds of complicated practices, but to really become refined and subtle with it. And if you do that in a nice, easy chair and close your eyes, you'll then begin going through layers and layers of discovering how there's subtle movements of harm in the mind itself, quietly within, and begin releasing them and releasing them, releasing them. And even to the point where the word harm is not quite the right word anymore, maybe, but rather the word is stress. That we're also learning to not add any stress. And in deep meditation practice, we see the subtle, in ordinary life, insignificant, but in meditation, quite significant, ways in which we self-harm, that are really, we see as forms of stress, tension, and just we can let go of them, let go of them, let go of them, to that place of safety, that place of peace, that place where we can live breathing, safe and free from all tendencies to harm. So, thank you.